Welcome to Relationship Goals, our brand new community group series on relationships. Over the next 6 weeks, we'll be sitting down with 5 unique couples from Community Life Church. I'll be asking these pastors and their wives questions about everything, from conflict to sex to putting God first in your relationship, and what does that even look like? It's going to be a candid and raw look into their lives that's going to be full of biblical wisdom and practical advice. And our hope is you'll take these conversations and you'll continue them in your living room, coffee shop, or wherever you're meeting. Today we're going to sit down with Randy and Marlo Wade as they discuss what it means to put Christ in the center of your relationship. Let's join them now. This is a little different than what we've done in the past, very casual, documentary focused. So I'm going to be interviewing you guys, asking you questions.
So don't look lovingly into her eyes.
Oh yeah, you absolutely can do that.
Might get lost.
Yes.
We start laughing when we do that, so.
That's good. Do that a lot. Did.
Tell me I'm beautiful.
You're gorgeous.
Okay, go ahead. My name is Randy.
And I'm Marlo.
And we're the Wades.
That's us.
Awesome. Well, again, this is called Relationship Goals. So we just want to hear more about your relationship. Why don't you give us the 2-minute version of how did you meet?
So I was in a sorority and needed a date. Didn't really know anybody. And so a mutual friend of ours set us up on a blind date.
Bonnie.
Yeah, Bonnie. We actually thank her every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give her a Facebook shout out.
So Marlo called me and she said, mutual friend Bonnie, I got this thing. Are you busy? And I said, well, let me check my calendar. Literally had nothing going on in my life. Hadn't been dating anybody. Super excited about the prospect of potentially going out on some social event with a female. So I pretended to check my calendar so she would think I had a life. And I got back on the phone. I was like, looks like that'll work. That'll work. It'd be great. Yeah. So we decided to have a pre-meeting at Baskin Robbins.
Yes.
And I don't know. The rest is history. I asked her what she was studying, and you said like child and family sciences. And right. I said, what are you going to do with your life? And she said, I really think I've been called by God to marry somebody in ministry. Yeah. I think I'm supposed to be a pastor's wife. And then she said, what are you doing? And I thought, oh no, like, because this is going to make me sound super desperate. Like, well, I'm going to go into ministry. But that was the real thing. So we hit it off, and she wouldn't let me buy her ice cream that night. She paid for her own.
No, that was my
ice cream.
plan. Yeah.
So anyway.
Randy, tell me about your first impression of Marlo.
No offense to like her roommate, but whenever my roommate and I first walked in, we didn't have any idea who we were dating, like which one was which. And her roommate is like such a sweet girl and beautiful girl, but my attention was immediately drawn to Marlo, and I was like, I hope that's the one that I'm going to go with. And it worked out that it was, and it wasn't. I guess I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but like she was a female, and she was interested in going out with me that night, so I was like, perfect. But the more time we spent together, that first impression at Baskin Robbins was like, this is just a really genuine person that I don't feel like has any pretense. So it took all of the pressure off of me to try to pretend to be something I wasn't. So I just was dorky and told my jokes and had a good time, and she just rolled along with it. And I thought,
I just laughed a lot.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted.
It's like she got me or something. So yeah, I thought this could work. This could work because I get to just be me, and she seems to be good with that.
Yeah.
When did you know he was the one that you were going to marry?
For me, I remember there was a time we were in church together, and you know, back with the hymnals. Of course, we shared the hymnal. You know, yes.
Yeah, it was a way we could hold hands.
We could. Yeah, in church. So we were doing that, and just kind of a flood of memories came back, and I remembered back to when I was younger, sitting in church, going, I think I'm going to marry a minister or a preacher one day. And then, like at that moment, I was like, it all hit at the same time, and I thought, he's going to be a preacher. We're probably getting married. Wow. I mean, it was just this whole kind of God going, here you go.
in your own words, what does a Christ-centered marriage look like?
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think really, obviously, your Sunday school answer is that we're both in love with Jesus. That's kind of a given. But along those lines, it's more than just that we're both following Jesus. We have to be in love with Jesus. And if we're not in love with Jesus, then things aren't going to be centered between the two of us.
Christ-centered, if you look at the example of Christ, he consistently encouraged us to put the needs of others before our own. And so I think a Christ-centered marriage, just if you take that principle and want to push all of the kind of spiritual jargon out of the explanation, I think would be whenever a couple says, I want to do whatever I can to see to it that the dreams and goals of this other person are met or are accomplished or achieved. And I can get emotional about it when I think about it because of the number of years that she has been and continues to be my biggest cheerleader, and undergirding and supporting. And so I'm on stages, microphones, videos, all this kind of stuff. As an introvert, never thought I would do any of that, but God has kept giving these opportunities. And the number of times that I know she's not the one on the platform, she's not the one on with the microphone, she's not the one on the video, she is the one that has made all of that possible for me. And so that kind of sacrifice, I think, is it can't be Christ-centered without that kind of mindset and that kind of sacrificial spirit.
Has there ever been a time that you felt like your relationship was not centered on the right thing?
I definitely feel like the first, 8 years of our marriage, I had convinced myself that to be Christ-centered meant I had to serve the church well first. I realized that I had been so busy loving the church and serving the church that I had not loved and served my wife well. And then I felt like, oh my goodness, all those nights that I would be at work and I would justify it because I was serving God, but realized that I was not fostering a Christ-centered marriage at all. And then we had Sydney, I guess, 5 years in, mm-hmm. And I missed the first 3 years of her life. And I think that was part of the tipping point. I thought, I'm missing too much. This surely can't be Christ-centered. This can't be the way God really designed this. Even though we didn't have a lot of conflict birthed out of it, because she's non-confrontational and will not fight with me even if I want her to.
Sorry.
I've tried, and she won't go for it. So anyway, I know that makes some people jealous, but that's just the way it is. If you ever want to fight, call me. I'll be glad to
always
engage.
How has it been navigating this idea of putting Christ first and your spouse second?
Sometimes it feels like if I'm doing the right things for her, then that will honor God. And so if I put her first, and she's here physically, like in the flesh, we're managing a family together. And so if I can, I can see how that mindset kind of creeps in, that I'm providing and I'm working and I'm doing and I'm caring for. And so all of that must then honor God. But I think the stigma gets broken when we realize I'm not really honoring her if I'm not growing in my faith, if I'm not being challenged and stretched, if I'm not willing to confess weakness or failure. And only the Spirit of God can bring those things to fruition. So there have been failures in my life with addictions that I've struggled, and I've been public about that, addiction to pornography. And early on in our marriage, there were times whenever I would tell her, like, hey, I messed up. I went to that place, in my mind and on the computer or whatever. I couldn't have gotten there in terms of confession if I was putting her first. I had to put God first, and then God brings about that conviction and confession. And so there's way more freedom, I think, at least that's been my experience, in putting God first, and then that benefits her, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
I get
Kind of
what
went
you're
into
saying.
preacher mode, but I think that's I hope that's what it's been like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think with today's society, so many people are, well, I have to take care of myself. And if I'm not taking care of myself, then who's going to? And so we don't think about, number one, we don't even think about putting our spouse first, much less God. We're going to put ourselves first. So to think even to put your spouse above yourself, then you've got to put God above your spouse. It seems, I think just the whole social idea of it, people are like, that just doesn't make sense. But like I said earlier, if we're not in love with Jesus first, then we don't have anything else. Because if God were to take him away, I have to be fully reliant on God for everything. Because as much as I love you and as much as I know he's going to take care of me, there's stuff that he can't do that only God can.
God did not bring Marlo into my life to replace him. And he did not bring me into her life to replace him. And if she expects me to be number one, or I expect her to be number one, we are setting each other up for failure.
Yeah.
We were not designed to be that for each other. So, yeah, there's no possible way the marriage can be healthy if the other person is being required to be something they weren't created to be.
Yeah.
How has Christ made you a better husband?
I think part of my sanctification has been to be present at home. I guess what I mean by that is there was a time whenever I would walk in and still be on my phone and whatever else, but I've developed a better discipline, I think, of the garage is that portal where the phone becomes way less important, and that whenever the kids come in or I come in, I try to always engage everybody, and not just how was your day, but in a kind of a loving tone, in a hey, let's be a family. I think that the work of Christ in me is producing fruit through me at home. I hope so.
Definitely. I actually had somebody ask me the other day I think last week somebody asked, is he on the phone all the time? And I was like, no. I said, now my phone may ding that he's arrived home and he may not be in for 15 minutes, but he's sitting in the car on the phone because he's going to finish that outside before coming in.
I don't want to just be a pastor at church. I think that would be the worst legacy I could leave, is that I pastored. This sounds terrible to say it this way, but because a lot of people we go to church with and stuff are friends, but to create the kind of the illustration, if I wind up getting to the end of my life and I pastored strangers better than I pastored my family, that would not be anything to be proud of at all. I think about that a lot.
What's a tangible goal for someone who wants to have a more Christ-centered relationship?
We've determined that one of the best things we can do for each other, she's alluded to it already, I've alluded to it, is you got to serve each other.
Yeah.
You've got to serve each other. And so I think it would be a terrible, it would have a terrible impact on our marriage if I get home from work and I go plop down in the recliner and expect everybody to serve me. And I don't think it'd be great if she did that either. And I don't want my kids doing that. I think that there is something that Jesus modeled time and time again. He would serve people. Yeah. And he was the one, washing the disciples' feet. He was the one that was, you just see it over and over and over of him serving people. So I think that would be the advice I'd give somebody, is to say, you need to serve each other. And then the thing I say in every wedding is success in marriage has nothing to do with finding the right person. It's daily becoming the right person.
Right.
And so if I'm becoming more like Christ, then I'm going to be better at serving her. And if she's becoming more like Christ, she's going to be better at serving me. And I think it reduces a ton of conflict, because the expectation isn't, well, you're going to do all that and you're going to do all that. You're going to do that because you're a woman. You're going to do that because you're a man. We have got to wad that list up, throw it out the window, and say, no, we're in a partnership. And God has seen fit to bring our lives together. And so what all has to get done, and let's figure out a way to enjoy getting that stuff done together.
To become more Christ-like, if you are striving towards that, again, you've got to be in love with Christ. And people are like, well, how do I fall in love with Christ? How do we fall in love with each other? We spent time together. You've got to actually spend time talking to God.
Thank you again so much. Is there any additional advice you would give to young couples?
Find out what your spouse enjoys doing. And even if it's something you don't like doing, that's a little bit of sacrifice. That's serving. Hey, today we're going to go to the piano store and you're going to get to play all the pianos you want to play.
Really?
Because he loves playing the piano. But yeah, so he would love that. So, which I would love to just sit and watch him play.
He's wanting to know, are you serious right now? Y'all about to go to the piano store?
Yeah, are we going to buy one?
We're not buying. We have to.
I know.
Yeah.
We love our life and are grateful to God for it. Yeah. And I think maybe when somebody gets to the end of their life, if they're able to say, and let's say they're married, so you get to the end of your life, and you're able to say with integrity, anything good that came through me came from God, but was supported by and encouraged by my spouse, and I'm definitely blessed to be in that category. That whenever I get to the end of the journey, I'll be able to look back and go, it wouldn't have been possible had it not been the grace of God demonstrated through her. 100% convinced of that. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. Again, just love listening to you guys share. I think it's going to be really, really good for people to hear what y'all have to say and have their own relationship goals based on what they heard here today. So, thank you. Well, we hope this conversation was an inspiration to you. And if you'll look in the description, you'll see a link to our discussion guide questions. And as always, we encourage you to keep the conversation going as you discuss relationship goals in your groups. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.